So turning on the recording, that way you guys, if need be, we can kind of watch it later if you need to, or have some other questions there as well. You'll be able to kind of use this too at any time. So I'm going to kind of ask you some questions. So those of you who have your phones and are using, first off, thank you again for letting me borrow your phones to get this accomplished and take care of this. And then we can use those, the sound on those. So if you ask questions, or if I ask a question where I need feedback from you, or if you have a question, go to one of those individuals that's using their phone. They can turn their mics off and can ask the question for it. So what we are getting into today is industrial design. So, and I want to talk just a little bit today about industrial design. All products basically start with an idea, and they have to be put on paper. So even your most favorite, I think for a lot of you guys, this is probably one of your favorite devices. That started as a sketch on paper, and then it went and got more and more details and more pronounced and developed over time. But it all kind of started with the idea put into paper on a sketch. So we're going to start today with doing some sketching. So I'm going to teach you how to do sketches. You all can draw, you all can do these sketches. So I know what right now you're probably all thinking, oh, I'm not an artist. I can't do any of this. But I'm here to say that yes, you can. So it does take some practice. So you'll have to learn a few of these sketching techniques that I'm going to show you and demonstrate for you, but you all will be able to do that. So real quick, let me know, raise your hands if you are currently in any of the art classes with Mr. Strickland. Anybody in the class in art right now? All right, how many of you have taken an art class in the past? Okay, so lots of hands going up with art. And how many of you did like that I think it was the 8th grade art class project? So any of you for your 8th grade art class project, was it a sketch or drawing or painting or a sculpture? So raise your hand if you did like some sketches for your 8th grade art project. All right, so some of you have some experience with this already. I'm going to kind of go through some of what I'm going to show you and teach you today may be a little different from what you learned in your art classes. Because again, this is industrial design, industrial sketching. We're still, industrial art is still kind of free form as far as sketches, but it gets to be more and more precise as we go. And we have rules, a lot more stringent rules that we have to follow than traditional art. So, but there's lots of great art that can be seen. So we're going to start out with just doing some sketching, and we're going to talk about some of the different ways and some of the different types of drawings that are done. So there is some terminology that you're going to need to know and learn today in class. I'm going to go over that. But first, we're just going to start with some basic sketches. So we're going to start with what I call squiggle sketching. So, all right, so everybody got a pencil. I do recommend, and as we go through with this, you should be using a number 2 pencil. Don't use a mechanical pencil because the lead on mechanical pencils are too thin and they won't give you a very good sketch line. Typically, they'll be too dark and they may tear through your paper. So we want to get a number 2 pencil. If you need one there in the tray there on that back row of computers, you can grab a number 2 pencil and get it in the pencil sharpener there. So I'll give you guys a minute to grab those. Hopefully I still have enough pencils left over in there, Miss Baker. Miss Baker, if we need more pencils, there may be a couple of pencils there in that tray, that small tray in the center of my desk, but hopefully we've got enough pencils in that other tray. All right, now, as we go, we're just going to start with some squiggles, and I'm going to show you how you can actually sketch just by kind of creating some lines on paper. So, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I didn't realize still seeing some people walk around, so I'll wait. Trey, you do me a favor and give me a thumbs up when everybody is ready to go and let me know, all right? Or the 1-point perspective first. So we have a horizon line. So we're going to label this as the horizon line. So you can all see that horizon line, and I'm going to put a point on that horizon. So right in the center. Now, you know, if I sit there now and I draw some lines from that point, so you will real quick be able to see exactly what I'm drawing. So, and make this out. So here we go. There's my sun. So we got a road going in there. Again, just like you guys are driving down the highway. When you're driving down the highway, you're seeing in 1-point perspective. You've got a horizon line out there. You got the open, wide open road. We can start to put some buildings on here that would all kind of convey and put into that 1-point perspective. So that's the first type of very realistic pictorial drawing called a 1-point perspective. So let me move on over now to the 2-point perspective. So we'll get that, and we'll kind of do this as a box. So get my next part. By the way, you guys don't understand when you're like only have one hand, how hard it is to rip off masking tape from the paper roll. So, all right, so this next one is going to be my 2-point perspective. Again, we've got that horizon line. So, and in this case, I'm going to put 2 points. I'm going to put 1 point here, and I'm going to put 1 point there. So, I'm going to just draw a center line right here like this. So, now I'm going to connect the endpoints here to there, right like that. And over here, I'm also going to come, and these endpoints are going to come back over here like this. And it's all going to converge on that point. So one more here will also come through. So as I go, we're going to come right on through here like this, and right on through like that. So, all right. Now, so as we then, so if I start to make some more lines here, so now we've got basically our box coming in here, and we've got this kind of a 2-point perspective. It's not necessarily a real 2-point perspective because of the way I drew this going down there. So I'm going to show you another method as well. So again, notice how quick these are. So hopefully you're all following along. So again, if you need me to stop for just a second, just have somebody turn on their mic and let me know. So, but again, the idea here with our sketches is they're just real quick sketches. So again, our 2 points here. So we're kind of just drawn some lines going out into space where we can kind of then come back in and segment that up into the different areas to create our box. So connecting these other points. Okay, so and you'll get your different box going through there. So that's a 2-point perspective. 3-point perspective is a little bit more challenging to go with. So I will also kind of put up some stuff onto Google to kind of show you some differences. So you'll see a couple of handouts that I'm going to have for you in there as well that demonstrate these two so that you can see how those are done as we go. So the next type of drawing is also one that we looked at. So it is also a pictorial type of drawing, but now this type of pictorial is kind of exclusive to industry. So I don't know of too many artists. I have to ask Mr. Strippins about this. I don't know of too many artists other than industrial artists that are using this type of drawing style, but it is one of our drawing styles that we use in the industrial technology realm, and it is called the isometric drawing. Isometric drawing. Now, an isometric drawing is also going to have a horizon line. So there is my horizon line. And you guys want to be sketching these in your notebook because you're going to need to be able to identify these different types of drawings as we go. So now, an isometric drawing is also a 3-dimensional drawing, or a way to represent an object 3-dimensionally, just like a perspective drawing. So, but in this case, I'm going to take my point right there, and we're going to kind of draw a box here, a 3-dimensional box. So from that point, I'm going to draw a vertical line straight up there like that. And then I'm going to draw 2 additional lines at a 30-degree angle from that dot. So that's going to be 30 degrees here. And I'm also going to come off on this side here at 30 degrees as well. Now, the difference between an isometric drawing and a perspective drawing is that in my isometric, all lines are parallel. All lines are parallel. So when we're seeing in perspective, those lines aren't in parallel. So I've got this line here. If I want to draw a box, I need this line here and that line also to be parallel. So if you kind of look at this, it's kind of like my little table leg kind of in a way. I got this plane down here. So, and then I got table. Now, I'm also, since I have this vertical line here, so I'm going to also have to draw that vertical line right there. And this 30-degree angled line here is also going to be at 30 degrees that way. So I get 2 kind of surfaces there, or it kind of looks like an open book. So both of these are 30 degrees. Now I'm going to close this off, and again, notice, so that line is parallel to this. So I've got this line, and that line are all parallel to each other. This line, and that line, these vertical lines, they are all parallel to each other. So now I've got this line and that line, the top, and close this box off. This line here also needs to be parallel. And now I have basically a 3-dimensional representation of a box in an isometric drawing. So I'll go back now. I'm gonna go back over these lines just to darken those. And that is typical when we're sketching. You want to start out with really light, faint lines that can barely be seen. And then as we sketch and fully start to define that object, then we can go back over and start to darken those lines. So now notice how that now really pops off of that page and comes out. So it's now kind of fully defined. No question here that this is a square box that I've got going on, and it's a very simple sketch to make. So isometric drawing differs from those perspective. These lines are all parallel to each other. Now, we have one other style of isometric drawing. So I'm going to draw that right here. This is referred to as an oblique isometric. So in this case, I have what's called a true shape. So what's my shape right here? So Charlie, somebody from your side, tell me what that shape is.
Square.
Square. So you guys know this without any problem. So that's a square, a very simple two-dimensional shape. And I'm going to make this look like a three-dimensional object too. We would call this, anytime you have a true shape like this, so that is called an oblique. So you guys are learning some fancy terminology here. An oblique, O-B-L-I-Q-U-E. Now we've got some different types of obliques. We got cavalier obliques and we got cabinet obliques, and we can get further into the terminology. And if you guys go on into some of the drafting classes, or if you go on to college for industrial design or for art or something, you'll get more into those. It's kind of out of the scope of this class, and you don't need it. I just kind of mention it just because sometimes I like to talk, so I mention it now. Now we're going to draw parallel lines off of this. Again, kind of going with the table legs, I'm going to go from each of those corner points. I'm going to draw a parallel line. So notice now, so I've got those lines. I'll darken these up a little bit. As you guys are doing it, go as light as you can. We'll go back in and fill it in. So now notice as I'm sketching, I'm doing one stroke with my pencil, just one stroke. Notice how I got this part of my hand resting on my paper, and I'm just kind of using some lever action here to make it a nice even stroke. So, okay, what you don't want to do when you're sketching is a bunch of little tiny lines like this. You will be a much quicker, better sketcher just doing one fell swoop of the pen to make your line, as opposed to a lot of little tiny lines. So, and you'll be able to sketch quicker. Now, so to complete this, I got to go back. I got to make a parallel line here. So there's my parallel line there. And I got to make a parallel vertical line here. So there I go, back over, darken these up. So now, one of the challenges when you're doing these type of drawings is because the human brain sees in perspective, and that's the way your eyesight is, a lot of times the human brain wants to kind of converge these and make those lines kind of converge at an angle. So that's part of that training your brain that I was talking about. You'll really have to force your brain to keep those lines parallel and not get them to converge in on each other. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I still sometimes, when I'm sketching, will still sometimes have those lines converging. So you'll really have to fight that urge, especially right now as you're first learning how to do that. So, all right, so that is our isometric drawing. Way to get a three-dimensional view and look out of a drawing. So pretty realistic. So not as realistic as our perspective drawings. Your perspective drawings are going to be more realistic. These are ways that we can show the way all these sides look like and what the different sides look like on it. So, all right. So that's the isometric. So our next drawing, so let me get another piece of paper up here. Our next drawing style is what we call a orthographic projection. And that's, again, you guys are going to be able to impress some people with your expanded vocabulary with some of these big fancy words that I'm giving you today. So this is called a orthographic, ORTHOGRAPHIC, orthographic projection. This is the next type of industrial drawing that we will use. You guys have actually been looking at orthographic projection drawings. So you've been looking at them as we built some of the different projects that we've made, whether it was the wood clock or even right now the tool tray. So when you guys did those layouts, you were basically looking at an orthographic projection. This is what's referred to as sometimes you can also call it a multi-view drawing. A multi-view drawing. Now, orthographic projections and multi-views are two-dimensional. We're going to have several different views, but each view is going to be two-dimensional. So right now with your paper, so I want you guys to kind of draw that, we'll call it a horizon line, kind of make your crosshairs there, keep it fairly big there on your paper. So, because each one of these areas is going to represent a different view. So this lower quadrant, I think in math class, they'd refer to this as quadrant 3. This is your front view. Okay. This quadrant here, what would be referred to as, say, quadrant 4 in your math class, this is a side view. And then, of course, up here, this is our top view. So that's our top view. So we have 3 different views here that will represent the object. So again, that square. So if we're just talking about a square block, so notice, so I draw the square. It's got some size to it. Again, it's a sketch, so I'm not too concerned about making this an exact size or putting any dimension on it. Over here in the side view, there is a relationship between these views. I'm going to come right over here, and again, if this is just a square block, so it's going to look the same in all 3 views. So the square block will look the same in all 3 views, even though you are looking at a different side of the block. So here we're looking, say, at the front side of the block. Here we're looking at the one side of the block, say the right side of the block. Here we're looking at down what's often called a bird's eye view of the top of the block. But because it's a block and it's a square block, it looks the same from all the sides. Now, later, as we get further into the class, we're going to go back through and we will basically do what's called a 1, 2, 3 block. And you're going to see how the relationship changes between each of these views as we go. So that is our 3 styles. So, all right. So let me bring these back to you. So, okay, Trey, up in your corner. So the very first drawing style that we talked about, what's the most realistic and the way the human eye sees. Somebody from Trey's corner, tell me, what is that first drawing style that we talked about? Go ahead. Trey, go ahead and turn your mic on there.
Perspective drawing.
Perspective drawing. Yep. So And we have, again, we've got 1 point, 2 point, or 3 point perspective. Very good. So I'm not sure whose camera is labeled as I don't know. So let's go ahead from that side of the room. So what is that other styles that we talked about? The other style that looks three-dimensional. Somebody from the other side of the room, please.
Isometric?
Isometric drawing, right. So those are both three-dimensional drawings, very realistic. What is the difference again? This is key to understanding. What's the difference between, say, a isometric drawing and a perspective drawing? It's kind of one of those math terms. So, Mr. Ridings, what's the difference there? Go ahead and turn the speaker off on that side. Yeah, all the lines are parallel. They're in your isometric drawings. So, whereas in your perspective drawing, they're not going to be parallel. They're going to be converging towards each other. So, all right. And then lastly, Mr. Dill, from your side, what was the last drawing style? Going to be two-dimensional. What was the term and name for that on that side? Somebody from Mr. Dill's corner there. Two-dimensional, real fancy terms. So, anybody on that corner know? Orthographic projection. Yeah, boy, we got some really bad feedback going on there. So, not sure what's up with that, but so all right. Hey, I think this is a pretty good stopping point right now. Give you guys a little break. So we're going to take about 7 or 8 minutes. Go ahead and go on out. Take your mass break. Come back in. We're going to start sketching once you come back in.